Yo, it's Sway.
Sway.
Sway. Sway.
Sway. Sway.
Sway.
In the morning.
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 Only on Shade 45.
Wake your fuck ass up.
Yeah. Bitches.
Right, okay. All right, we got Big Easy. What would you like to say? He's in Arkansas. Go ahead.
Man, I want to say that really, like, the war on drugs, it's only getting worse. Like, as people are advertising, you know, we need to get this stuff off the streets. Younger and younger people are seeing it, and they're like, oh, I wonder what that's like. You know, I saw a freaking thing on 4029 for Molly, you know, and hardly anybody's ever heard of that shit, you know, but now everybody's like all trying to get in it. It's getting kind of stupid, you know. It's getting a little hectic.
Well, you know, he talks about Molly, which is a big topic of conversation in hip hop and rap. And rap tends to, put the spotlight on the drug trade. And, you know, a lot of artists tend to glorify that whole lifestyle. How do y'all feel like the role of, you know, since we are at a music station, the role of music, what role can it play? What role can artists play? I mean, you can't really expect artists necessarily to do something. That's not why a lot of them got in the game. But doesn't the content impact the mentality?
Of course, but as artists, we're not trained to be socialists. I mean, sociologists and psychologists and doctors and teachers. We're reflecting what we see in the street, in our lives, in our experience, and expressing that creatively through music and art and film. We have put no resources toward addiction research. We have put no resources toward community building. Who's putting the money there? We spend $25 billion to throw the weakest members of our society in prison for trying to escape, for trying to feel good, for trying to find a way out, for having pain in their hearts and their minds. That's been our solution. And then we're going to turn around and we're going to talk about musicians and their responsibility. Any politician who says that to me, that's absurd. Put your money where your mouth is.
That's spoken like a true artist right there. You hear I
hear him.
He looked at me like he was mad at me, man. I was like, hey, man, I'm just asking questions here, man.
I love the question.
All right, cool. We got Eric in Atlanta. What you want to say?
Hey, man, I appreciate y'all approaching this topic. You know, how y'all doing?
Good
morning.
What's up?
Hey, man, I just want to say that, you know, the war on drugs is really also a war on black men, and it's locked up so many of us. And we represent now, I think, more in prison than we ever had in slavery.
That's
correct.
Know,
and it just gave the government an excuse to just lock us up for a little bit of stuff.
And the reality is that it's an absolutely important, crucial, critical point to make, because it's the origin of the war on drugs. And it's not just the reality today, although it is the reality of today. You know, if you look at the demographic breakdown of the United States, the U.S. has maybe 30% people of color. In prisons, it's 60%. But the truth is that white people, black people, whatever color you are, you do drugs and you sell drugs, and we do drugs and sell drugs at the same rate. So it is a racist policy, and it began that way. The very first drug laws at the turn of the century in the United States, the marijuana laws, they said in the newspapers that marijuana was giving Mexicans superhuman strength. That was the lie that was told. And the politicians repeated that lie, and the first drug laws against marijuana were only toward Mexicans. Similarly, cocaine, a couple decades later, the New York Times ran a front page article that said, cocaine-crazed Negroes are attacking white women in the streets. Now, what was the reality at the time? The reality was that cocaine was legal. It was a medicine prescribed by doctors. Freud did it. The guy who built the Statue of Liberty did it. And the majority of people who were abusing cocaine were middle-class white women in the suburbs. So you see the same thing with opium. Opium was made illegal for the Chinese. So these drug laws came about because of a majority of racist whites in this country who wanted to keep jobs and aggregate their voters into getting behind them for this racist culture that they had.
Yeah.
And that systemically exists today. And that's why we see the caller's point, that the prisons are filled up with minorities and poor people, which does not represent who are actually doing and selling the drugs. And even if it did, it wouldn't matter anyway, because the war on drugs is such an enormous failure.
It's Sway in the morning, only
On Shade 45.